I used to be where you are right now, overwhelmed, frustrated, studying hard, but not seeing results. No matter how many hours I put into studying, my grades just didn't match my effort. But at university, actually around the same time I started this YouTube channel in 2016, I created a free-phase study system which changed everything. It took me from being stressed and struggling with every exam to graduating with a 4.0 GPA and graduating in the top 1% of my university. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the exact system to help you also unlock your potential. This video is sponsored by Bellroy. The first phase of the system is preview, and this is where you prime your brain to absorb new material more easily, right? So investing just 15 to 20 minutes in previewing material before class can actually save you hours of study time in the long run. If you think of it like this, when you go on a hike in a new place, you probably glance at the map beforehand to get a lay of the land, right? You're not kind of memorizing every detail, but you're just kind of getting a general idea of the terrain, of the landmark. So when you actually set out on the hike, you have a mental framework to hook new information onto, and everything just clicks into place better. And previewing works the same way. It primes your brain to absorb new concepts more easily, and science backs this up, right? A 2016 Japanese study showed that even brief previewing significantly enhances comprehension and memory retention, making study sessions way more efficient, essentially. So what does an effective preview look like? It really boils down to three things. First, skim the titles, the headings, the subheadings, and bolded terms. So don't get bogged down in the details, just focus on the big picture organization. Second, jot down any questions that pop into mind as you skim. So these will give you kind of a purpose for learning in class, so you're not just passively listening. And third, try to connect the new content to something you already know. So look for hooks in your own life experience or existing knowledge. The more personal connections you can make, the more the information will stick. But what about those times where no matter how much you want to study, you just can't seem to focus? Maybe the subject isn't your favourite, or the teaching style isn't engaging, or you're just kind of having an off day, because we all have them. Well, I also used to struggle with retaining focus until I learned a technique that helped me stay laser focused and absorb information like a sponge that I still use to this day. It's called active learning. So cognitive psychology research shows that when we actively engage with material, discussing it, applying it, teaching it, we retain way more than we do just passively listening, right? It's like the difference between watching a cooking show and actually getting in the kitchen to try the recipe yourself. When you're hands-on, you learn on a much deeper level. But how can you bring active learning into your class? Well, one of my favorite techniques is the 50-50 method. The goal is a balance of listening and participation. So as you listen, jot down questions that come to mind, ideas you want to explore further, and connections to other topics. If a point confuses you, you can kind of star it to ask for clarification later. If something fascinates you, make a note to research it more on your own. The physical act of writing keeps you engaged, and you're training your brain to interact with the information instead of just kind of passively absorbing it. Also, your note-taking style can make a huge difference, so ditch using words and try using visual connective strategies like mind mapping. Start with the main topic in the center and branch out with related subtopics and details. You can use drawings, syllables, and colors to make it memorable. The spatial layout helps you see more concepts, relate, and make new insights. Also, one of the most powerful active learning hacks is summarizing. So after each section or lecture, take a minute to write a brief recap in your own words, and you can break down the main points, key takeaways, and your kind of lingering questions. The act of gathering information and transitioning it into your own personal language moves it from your short-term memory over to your deep long-term understanding. Plus, you're creating a concise study guide in real time, so you won't have to puzzle through a semester's worth of notes come exam season. It's really important that you're studying with intention, meaning you're studying with a clear end goal with your exams in mind, that you know clearly what grade you're aiming for, and for every hour you study is to achieve that specific grade for that specific exam. Similarly, when going to school or university or work, you should be just as intentional with the things you bring with you, right? If you have a bag full of clutter and random scrunched up piece of papers and random pens and paper clips at the bottom of your bag, it doesn't really set you up with the right mindset. I've been testing out Bellroy's classic backpack right here for the last couple of weeks, and genuinely one of the most well-made bags I've ever used. And Bellroy have sponsored this video, but if you watch some of my other videos this year, you'll know I'm a massive Bellroy fan. I have their classic backpack, their laptop caddy, their duffel bag, mini sling, toiletries bag, and one thing is consistent throughout them all. They're all built to last a long time. So this classic backpack is perfect for an everyday bag for school, university, or work. It will hold a laptop up to 16 inches. It has a padded iPad or A5 document pocket, and it's water resistant. But if I need something a bit bigger than a backpack, Bellroy also have a classic weekender bag. So this is their 35 litre duffel. As the name suggests, it's great for quick weekends away. I'd also imagine, although I've not used it for this yet, it's a great gym bag as well. You can open it super wide so everything is very accessible. There are smaller slip pockets for smaller items, and it has a luggage pass-through so you can add it to your suitcase if you so wish. I'll also mention, if you are travelling, I have Bellroy's toiletries kit. It has water-resistant lining for easy wipe down. It has a toothbrush sleeve with magnetic and internal pockets too. As with the backpack and duffel, the toiletries kit is backed by Bellroy's 3-year warranty. I really recommend Bellroy product if you want travel items that will last you a long time. I'll drop a link in the description below for you to check them out. So far we've covered how to preview material to get a mental framework and engage actively in class. But what about retaining all of that information for exams? And that's where the third phase comes in. Many students find that passively reviewing notes isn't enough to make information stick long term. In fact, research shows that we forget a staggering 90% of what we learn within just a few days to weeks unless we make a conscious effort to retain it. And this is called the forgetting curve, and it looks something like this. But don't worry, there's a powerful strategy you can use to combat the forgetting curve and cement your understanding. It's called spaced repetition, and it's based on the science of how our brains store and strengthen memories. The basic idea is this: instead of cramming all your reviews into one marathon session, you spread them out over time at increasing intervals. So you might review a topic one day after first learning it, then 3 days later, then a week, then 2 weeks, and so on. And here's the thing. You don't want to kind of just passively look over your notes again. Spaced repetition only works if you actively test yourself each time to retrieve the information from memory. And this kind of effortful recall is what strengthens the neural connections and makes the knowledge stick. Studies show that students who use spaced repetition consistently retain up to 80% more information than those who don't. So that's a massive difference in exam performance. Alright, so we've covered how to prime your brain before class, engage actively during lectures, and then use spaced repetition to cement your understanding after class. But what about the exam day itself? How can you make sure all your hard work pays off when it matters the most? The key is to develop what I like to call a complete exam success toolkit. So these are a set of strategies and techniques you can rely on to perform your best under pressure. The good news is that a lot of this toolkit is about what you do in days and weeks leading up to the test, not just on the day of the exam. First up is self-explanation. So this is the practice of explaining key concepts and problems to yourself or others in your own words. It might feel a bit silly at first, but research shows that it does deepen your understanding and memory of complex material. So as you're reviewing, don't just passively read your notes, but pause occasionally and ask yourself, how would I explain this to a friend who's never taken this class? What are the key points I'd want to explain? Another proven technique I use is practice testing, essentially creating your own mini exams to take under realistic conditions. So this isn't about memorizing exact questions, but rather getting used to the format, the timing, and the demands your exams will have. As you're working through old exams or practice problems, pay attention to patterns in the types of questions asked. Is there always a section on defining key terms or comparing and contrasting theories, analyzing case studies? By identifying these trends, you can kind of anticipate what to expect and adjust your studying accordingly. One of my favorite practice test hacks is something called reverse outlining. So after taking a practice exam, you try to create an outline from memory of the key topics and ideas covered. And this kind of helps you reinforce the structure and relationships of the material in your mind, so you're not just memorizing individual facts. By using these strategies alongside the three-phase system of preview, engage, and prepare, I was able to stop feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and instead graduate with a perfect 4.0 GPA, and I know it can do the same for you too. For a more in-depth look, check out my study system course. I'll add a description in the link below, and if you can't focus, check out this video right here, and don't forget to check out Bellroy. All links are in the description.